welcome into another edition of the second half draft show. I'm your host, Juice, joined by Hadley and Drew there at the bottom of the screen. What's going on, gentlemen?
Man, it's another day of paradise, man.
Yes, sir.
You in paradise, B?
Nah, you know those answers, man. It's a go-to answer, man.
I feel you, man. We got a good show for you guys tonight. We're going to start with, some more Senior Bowl coverage. I talked about it last week and going in, obviously, into the Senior Bowl week. Of course, there's a ton of content already on the channel. That's Couch Potato General Manager at YouTube. We look at the Senior Bowl very closely because actual football is being played, right? Obviously, you want to look at the game film. Then when you incorporate the Senior Bowl, it's a good opportunity to see what guys have improved upon, whether or not they've taken a step forward, a step backwards. And if you see a player that you're not necessarily familiar with, you go to the tape, confirm if what you saw during the Senior Bowl actually lines up. So there's a lot of utility that comes out of the recent Senior Bowl every year. That's the reason why we're going to continue to spend some more time on it. So those of you might get a little Senior Bowl fatigue. You're going to have to bear with us because, like I said, football is actually being played. There really isn't going to be any football from here on out throughout the pre-draft process. So, again, that's the reason why Couch Potato General Manager puts a lot of emphasis on the Senior Bowl. And, of course, we're also going to review Lance Zierlein's mock draft, his first mock draft of 2023. If you're not familiar with Lance's work, if you've ever been on NFL.com and you looked at, draft prospect scouting reports, Lance writes the lion's share of them, about 95% of them, Lance Zierlein writes. So we're going to check out his mock draft, some interesting names, quite a few Senior Bowl participants on that list. So, but like I said, before we get to that, we're going to talk a little bit about the winners and losers coming out of the Senior Bowl. All right, gents? So let's get into it. All right. And if you want to follow along with us, obviously you have the video here, the visual. But Hadley has done a couple posts here at Couch Potato General Manager. Actually, it's couchpotatogm.com, the website. And he broke down the winners and losers from the Senior Bowl by each team. So you have the national team and the American team. And we're going to start with the national team, Hadley. And right at the top of your list, you see those three names. Dion Henley, a guy that you were really intrigued with going into the Senior Bowl. You felt like he had a lot to prove. He actually proved it, as well as Jaden Reed and Jacorian Bennett, defensive back from Maryland. Your thoughts on those players, Hadley?
Yeah, I thought Henley proved a lot in terms of pass coverage, being able to, rush the quarterback, elude running backs blocks. He just moves really well. The thing he has to clean up is more anticipation, especially in the run game. He could jump a hole wrong or not take on a block. But as far as athleticism go, I think Henley proved a lot in this Senior Bowl. Also, Jaden Reed, man, I think he's a smaller guy, but he plays bigger than his size. Attacking football in the air, excellent route runner. I love Jaden Reed's game. Jacorian Bennett, man, he's been in and out of hit pockets all practices. I think he got an interception in the actual game. So this is a guy that stays really close to receivers. Yeah.
Yeah. Of those three players, Drew, who do you think helped themselves the most?
Forgot I had myself on mute, man. Where is it at? Out of those three players,
yeah.
Dang, bro, it's tight. It's between Jaden Reed and Jacorian Bennett. I'm probably gonna go with Jacorian Bennett over Jaden Reed. It's close though, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Jacorian Bennett, man.
All right. You could probably see the name peaking there. A guy that I think was very, very impressive.
Should have been at the top, bro. I don't know why he wasn't at the top.
Probably should have been at the top.
I did it by number order. It was by the numbers
by
they
number
were
order. You just
impressive.
went down the roster. I hear you. No problem. Michael Wilson, receiver from Stanford. I mean, he was incredibly impressive. He carried it through the practices into the game. There's going to be some content, some specific Michael Wilson content coming out on the YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that. Wanted to shout out some of our viewers here. What's going on, Mike? Appreciate you. One above all, always good to see you. And Bills are electric, man. Love to see you guys here rocking with us on the second half draft show. So, Drew, a little bit in terms of your impression of Michael Wilson. You actually got an opportunity to interview him. And again, that interview will be up this weekend on the YouTube channel. What were your thoughts about what you saw on the field? And then, of course, the conversation you had with him.
So I'm going to say this, man. Going into the Senior Bowl, I was trying to get to every player, right? It's just, and there's players that, end up not going or not end up participating. So obviously I didn't get through the list. He was one of the guys I didn't even get to. And I didn't know, down there talking to him, I didn't realize he was injured He missed more games than he actually played in college, which is crazy. And he just told us, hey, listen, coaches, NFL execs, agents, they just want to see, they want to see me play, and what I look like, against competition to stay healthy. And he did that, and he surprised a lot of people with his ability to run routes. I mean, listen, that may be the most important thing outside of catching the football as a receiver, is to be able to run routes and create separation. And he does it in a bevy of ways with nuance, subtlety, with speed. He's got all the tools in the tool shed to be the receiver that you want. Receiver one, slot receiver, doesn't really matter. He is, I'm not saying he's receiver one. I'm saying what I saw was receiver one work he was doing at the Senior Bowl. That was beautiful, and he's an intellectual player. He looks at things different than most players that we talk to at the Senior Bowl.
Helly, your impression of Michael Wilson. Again, you were there with Drew when you got an opportunity to speak to him on the field. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. Just like Drew said, speaking to him, man, he's a very smart individual. He went to Stanford, so that might have gave it away a little bit, but just his detail to the game, man. He was talking
Attention
about
to detail, yeah.
He's talking about going to high school and watching film there and what they improved upon from high school to college. That's deep, man. And to make it at the next level, film work is one of the most important things, because some guys get there just on talent. You're just better than everyone, but the guys that study the game and try to get better every day, those are the guys that last 10, 15 years in the league. So I like Michael Wilson a lot, man. The twitchiness in his route running, it really jumped out to me at the Senior Bowl.
It's impressive because he has good size. He's not a slot guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not suggesting that he can't play from the slot, but
right.
he has X stature in terms of physical stature. You understand what I'm saying? So seeing him come out of those breaks and really get the cornerbacks to kind of open up their hips and sell that 9 route, and stack defensive backs when he does go vertical, it was really impressive. Just hope that he stays healthy. I think that's going to be the main thing as part of his evaluation, is the medicals when they go to the combine and see exactly what they're dealing with. Drew alluded to it. He just hasn't been on the field. You know what I mean? What little tape is available of him is good, and it's part of the reason why he got his invitation to the Senior Bowl. And again, he took advantage of his opportunity there. But certainly he just hasn't played a lot of games due to injury over the last few seasons. All right, let's move on. Got a handful of players here, Headley, that you really liked, and certainly we would agree with you. Ivan Pace, the linebacker from Cincinnati, really demonstrated his ability to get after the passer. Carl Brooks, he's actually considered the biggest scouting combine snub, according to Jim Nagy. Caillou Blue Kelly, there were some concerns about long speed and his ability to hold up in man-to-man coverage, assuming he wasn't able to get his hands on you. I thought he helped himself. He played well. He showed some improvement. And then Sidney Brown, he was one of my favorites from the Senior Bowl. Just, consistency. You can see him on this rep right here, matched up against the tight end. Didn't matter. He's giving up some size, but he's exactly where he's supposed to be. Plays with physicality and smart. So really impressive. He was actually the better of the two Chase brothers. And then your guy, Jalen Duncan, Headley. He looked like he belonged. I mean, obviously he looks like he belongs, but he certainly played like he belonged. What were your impressions of Jalen Duncan specifically?
Excellent movement ability, and we knew this, but what he improved upon that I saw at the Senior Bowl was that anchor. Guys wasn't really going through him. He was just so consistent, especially when he was at the left tackle position. I know they tried him at right tackle a couple times, but he just won those one-on-one matchups every time, and it was pretty impressive to me because those one-on-one matchups, you think the tackle will get beat a couple times, and it just more set up for defensive players, I think. But he held his own time after time, so I think his stock is up after the Senior Bowl.
So among these 5 players here, Drew, any one or two that really stood out to you while we were in Mobile?
Yeah, dang, I had to go through everybody here, bro, because they all stood out.
They all stood out, but it's a
one or two.
I'm asking, yes, 1 or 2.
Yeah. Got to stick to the game plan. I'm gonna go Sidney Brown and Ivan Pace. Sidney Brown, I coined him as he's a crash dummy.
Right.
He's just gonna run in there, make plays. He's just gonna cause disruption, and he was all over the field, whether it was in coverage or whether it was coming downhill making plays. And then Ivan Pace is a teleporter, bro. Yeah. He just finds ball, gets ball, and I actually think this guy is an outstanding pass rusher. And whoever drafts him, not saying he can't play linebacker because I believe he can do it, but I think if you're going to use him, if you're going to draft him, especially if you're going to draft him higher than maybe some people feel he should go because of his size, because that was something that we did talk about in terms of, what the NFL execs, coaches, and stuff were doubting about him was his size. Yeah, his size ain't a problem for me, bro. The way he plays, his size is almost irrelevant. And he's coming off the edge, screaming off the edge. He's got pass rush moves. This is a refined pass rusher coming off the edge if that's what you plan on doing with him.
Yeah, just a little undersized. It's a matter of how you deploy him because the skill set is absolutely there. And like you said, there are several players from the Senior Bowl that may not necessarily check the boxes as far as size is concerned, but the skill set is in place. And I must say, I'm pushing anybody who can affect the passer further up my board. At the end of the day, on the defensive side of the ball, if you can affect the passer, there's so many teams in the NFL that cannot get a consistent pass rush. You understand what I'm saying? And they don't have a chance. Not in this passing league. Not when you really can't affect the passer by hitting him too much, right? You know what I'm saying? And then of course your inability to really get physical with the receivers downfield. So yeah, Ivan Pace, he really stood out to me as well. I agree with you there. Drew, you mentioned Sidney Brown as far as him being a crash dummy. I thought he played with a lot of control. It was fast.
No.
It was fast and violent. It was fast and violent.
I meant to say, watching the tape before the Senior Bowl was a crash test dummy coming downhill. I need you to come under control. When he came to the Senior Bowl, all that is almost like it never existed. And he was clean. I would say that.
Yeah, definitely. Mike asked this question here. Is it true Carl Brooks played some stand-up DN at 300 pounds in college?
Bro, they did a bunch
absolutely
of stuff
true,
with that guy, bro.
This man was 7 technique, 5, 4, 3. He was
wide 9.
Pick a number. Pick a number. He played it all, bro. It was ridiculous.
Stand up. Yeah, he did it all.
And then our guy Derek said, love Carl Brooks. Pace could be a nice Swiss Army knife. No, Derek's a Seahawks fan. I believe he's a Seahawks fan. Yes, he is. I think Ivan Pace actually would be a good fit. You know what I'm saying? Next to Jordan Brooks and the ability to affect the pass, because of course Seattle needs to improve their pass rush. I think that actually would be a good landing spot for Ivan Pace. All right, let's
more respect
continue on.
To be on Pace's name too, man. I've been seeing some top 5 linebackers and he's not on there. I think he should be on there.
All right. Okay, before we get to the Senior Bowl losers, we have a few more winners here from the national team. We got Dawan Jones, 1 day, and he was done. Payne Durham, I thought he was really impressive, particularly that last practice and in the game. He really came alive, made plays in the red zone. And then I'm gonna defer to you, Drew. Defer to you. Say it one more time.
Adetomowe?
Yes, there you go. There you go. The interior defensive lineman from Northwestern. You guys actually had an opportunity to interview him as well. That will be on the channel here soon. What did he have to say about the doubts about his size once again?
Dominant, bro. It didn't matter. And he uses that size because he's, not that tall to his advantage in terms of leverage. And you could see it almost every snap. And if he wasn't winning, whoever he was going against, he gave them problems. So,
Jared Patterson.
Yeah, that wasn't fair, bro. Yeah, that was ugly. That's the kind of guy Jared Patterson doesn't want to face. Right. That's just a mismatch all day. But yeah, man, he dominated. He had a good week of practice. I love watching this game. I'm thinking about Northwestern. Like, okay, what you got? Yeah, he got it, bro. He got it.
All right, so we move on to the Senior Bowl losers, and right at the top, Headley has your guy, Drew.
No, it's Thomas Incoom. That's who I see.
No. You see the right name. You see that name right there, Jaron Hall. Yeah. So Drew has been touting Jaron Hall. Obviously, there's a lot to like about his film. So, even though he didn't necessarily help himself at the Senior Bowl, I think he's still an intriguing prospect. But any, idea that he might be an outside shot of, being towards the bottom of the first round or early day 2, I think that has gone by the wayside. And even Jim Nagy indicated, he said that we don't have a first round quarterback this year attending the Senior Bowl.
He was talking fourth, fifth round for any quarterback that they had on the roster.
Day 3.
So,
yeah. So, I mean, as far as his performance, Drew, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to kind of speak to it. What was the issue? Why didn't Jaron Hall help himself? I thought this was a prime opportunity, particularly without Will Levis attending, Malik Hooker being hurt. I thought this was a great opportunity. He just didn't capitalize.
He didn't look comfortable, man. And usually, for quarterbacks specifically on the first day, I usually expect that. Not comfortable with the guys they're playing with, not comfortable entirely with the playbook. Coaches yelling at them, talking to them, just different things going on, and a lot of things they have to carry in terms of being that one of the quarterbacks there. And he didn't. It just didn't work well for him, and he didn't improve. He looked the same from day 1 to day 2 to day 3, maybe slightly, but he wouldn't let go of the football. And what does that tell you? He's not seeing things well. And then at the end of the day, he didn't play because sometimes, guys play bad during the week and then they play in the game and they, but he ended up not playing in the game, for whatever reason. I did a little research. Don't know if it's true or not. So don't hold me to it. Take it as a grain of salt, but they're talking about maybe he was injured. Him and I can't think it was Wicks that left.
Wicks. Yeah.
Yeah. They left and there's still no word on in terms of, why they left. And if anybody has it, throw it up in the comment section, let us know. But yeah, it's unfortunate, man. Maybe he was injured. Maybe he was injured the entire time. Nobody knew. He didn't say anything outside of, some of the coaches and Jim Nagy knowing, and he was just trying to see what he could do with why he was there, trying to boost the stock, but it didn't work.
You mentioned him not playing in the game, and again, we don't necessarily know why he opted out of playing in the actual game, considering that he didn't necessarily, again, really take advantage of the opportunity during the practices. A player that comes to mind is Isaiah Land, the edge from FAMU. He was being played in different spots, off the ball linebacker, just kind of looking, kind of feeling things out, and he wasn't playing fast. You know what I'm saying? And then you could see that he was thinking. You know what I mean? And he wasn't able to let his natural ability kind of take over. And then we get into the game, and he looks like a different player altogether. You know what I'm saying? And I think he really helped himself by playing in the game. I know there isn't as much emphasis placed on these games because you have guys that are opting out and so on and so forth. But, to start the week off rough, it was bumpy, and then ended on a strong point, I think is a good sign. I think Isaiah Land benefited from attending, even though he didn't have a great, few days of practice. And then, like I said, when the bullets actually started to fly, he played very well. So missed opportunity for Jaron Hall. The rest of the losers here, Headley, you got Thomas Incoom from Central Michigan, Ronnie Hickman from Ohio State, Andre Carter. I'll speak to Carter, and I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to speak to it as well. I thought, he has the length, and he doesn't use it effectively. And there's some issues in terms of functional strength. He looked like he just wasn't strong enough when facing some of those tackles during the one-on-ones, during inside run, during 11 on 11. I think, when we got to 11 on 11, he was a little bit better, but, you put him on the edge and you give him a one-on-one opportunity, you're expecting him to be able to affect the passer, right? That's what we were talking about right at the top. And he was getting enveloped by the offensive lineman. You know what I'm saying? Again, he didn't necessarily use his length to his advantage. Didn't look like he had the burst to really turn that edge, the fluidity to turn that edge. And again, the bull rush was non-existent. So Headley, you also have Jake Andrews, Elijah Higgins here. Let's talk about Carter, and then you can touch on some of the other guys that you felt really didn't necessarily help themselves.
Yeah, Andre Carter, I think you laid everything out there. He just, the strength in his game just wasn't there. You get to play against the upper echelon of competition, because that's the biggest thing with guys, from Army or guys that's not in the Power 5 is let's see how they compete against, the top level guys. And we saw it, and like you said, it wasn't good. So, I had to put him on the losers list. Another guy, Elijah Higgins from Stanford, while his teammate Michael Wilson was doing work, he couldn't separate. He was stuck on the DBs. He couldn't really separate. And when he kind of got the ball in his hands, he didn't come down with catches all the time. So got to check their hands and the separation at the next level. Separation is the most important things, like Drew said, other than catching the football. And, he did bad in both of those categories. Also, Jake Andrews, he just kept on getting beat time after time. I think technique goes a long way with him. I would have tried him in a couple of different positions, but, it wasn't working. And Ronnie Hickman, I think he was only there for one day. I'm not sure. Maybe he was injured himself, but he didn't look comfortable in coverage. So also had to go on the losers list. And Incoom, this is a guy, the actual game tape in the season, it looked pretty okay, but the Senior Bowl, he didn't really put it together. So, it'll be interesting to see how he does in this draft process.
All right. So there you have it. Obviously, Drew and I weighed in, but these are Headley's winners and losers from the 2023 Senior Bowl for the national team. Let's move over to the American team before we get into Lance Zierlein's mock draft. And Headley, again, we're going to start with the winners. Right at the top, you got Eric Gray of Oklahoma and Tank Dell, who turned a lot of heads in the one-on-one drills from Houston, the FBS leader in receiving yards.
Yeah, I thought Tank Dell was, excellent separation all day. He's one of those quick twist slot guys. He led the nation in receiving yards, so he got game. But everyone always says about these guys, these drills are made for him to win. And at the next level, when a defender get hands on you and get more physical with you, are you going to be able to separate? Are you going to be a one-trick pony, or are you going to put the whole game together? So that's something to watch with Tank Dell. But in the practices, he balls each and every time in these one-on-one reps. On the channel, on the YouTube channel, General Manager. And then Eric Gray, I'm gonna say this: he struggled as a pass protector. So, I don't know if he's a big winner. He's a winner on the list because of what he did, catching the football, running the football. I just thought he was just explosive. His lower half is really built. I think you said a little Devontae Freeman in his game.
Yeah.
So he won that aspect.
The shiftiness, absolutely. Yeah.
But pass protection, he's not gonna get on the field protecting his quarterback like that.
Gotcha. Drew, your thoughts on Dell in particular?
Bo was nasty, bro. I mean, he was nasty. It was between Dell and Wilson, who was going to be the nastier guy, and Dell just a little bit more nasty, man. When again, I talk about when you talk about the receiver position, can you separate? And he probably had the most separation of all the receivers in terms of just, it didn't matter the type of corner that he was going against, whether they're big, long, fast, strong, didn't matter. It was all nasty. It was all the same. It was rinse and repeat. He was a fun watch. And if you watch those one-on-ones, man, down in the comment section, his name is all over it, bro.
Yeah, Deldon didn't play in the game or the third practice. He sewn it up by that point. But I will say the one rep he didn't win, defensive back got his hands on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. He can kind of put you in that spin cycle, but a crafty defensive back that's able to kind of use their length in order to control him at the line of scrimmage is ultimately how you mitigate all of his explosiveness and route running prowess. So definitely something to watch. I just don't see many guys with the confidence, with the technique to effectively jam receivers at the line of scrimmage these days. So I believe Tank Dell will be just fine, and he certainly helped himself. Moving on, we got Zach Pickens from South Carolina, Tyjae Spears, running back from Tulane, Julius Brents, very big, long corner from Kansas State, Darius Rush, perhaps the most impressive defensive back from the week outside of Sidney Brown, and then Aubrey Miller from Jackson State. I want to start with Aubrey Miller, Headley. Your thoughts on that particular individual?
Oh, this guy, man. I kind of fell in love with him through this week, man. The practices, I thought he showed a more athleticism than I thought he had coming into the week. But this guy's a physical downhill thumper. You saw it in the game when you could actually hit. In practices he couldn't really hit it and show that physicality. But in the game, man, he was headhunting out there. And the new age, the league, it's a passing league, but it's kind of reverting a little bit back. They're going to put a fullback in there. We try to run it down teams' throat, especially in December playoff times. That's what teams want to do. And you get a guy like Aubrey Miller to come up there and stick. I think he's going to be very valuable at the next level. So, really love Aubrey Miller. Who else? Darius Rush was just the technique. He was kind of a guy like Bennett, but he did it a little bit better than Bennett, where he was in hit pockets all day long, just affected the pass every single rep. And you got Brents, a long corner. Tyjae Spears, I think he won MVP of the Senior Bowl practices, I believe, by his peers. Yeah. He watching the tape before he entered, I was really impressed with him, his game. But against upper competition in the Senior Bowl, I think he showed his pass catching, his burst, the juice, man, to explode and take it to the house. He showed that all week at Senior Bowl. And Zach Pickens, a guy that I love, man. It's the twitchy, physical guy. It affects the quarterback from the middle of the field, man. The quickest way to the quarterback is right down the middle, and Pickens is going to be there all day.
Rush was really impressive. What kind of jumped out at me with him was just the technique, just the overall technique, right? And the way that the defensive backs are deployed at South Carolina is interesting. Those guys don't play a full, bevy of snaps. Even Cam Smith, who was considered by some a first-round prospect, right? So that I found interesting. But just he was able to jump routes, and then nobody got their hands on the ball more than Darius Rush. He came down with several interceptions during one-on-ones, let alone 11 on 11, 7 on 7. So that was really impressive. But he was reading the hips. He was reading the hips of the receivers. You know what I mean? He was looking for tells in terms of routes, and he was jumping on everything. He was squatting on certain things. I would have liked to see guys get a little bit more vertical on him throughout the one-on-ones in particular, see how he adjusts. But he certainly was not. There may have been some guessing earlier in the week, but as the week progressed, he was definitely reading the hips and using proper technique to get his hands on the football. So impressive stuff. I wanted to pose the question that Derek asked. Do you think Jake Andrews can move inside the guard? Now, of course, this is talking about the national team. He mentions that those McVay offensive lines like to convert tackles to guards, and frankly, some collegiate offensive tackles fare better as guards at the NFL level for whatever reason.
So you're talking about the I mean,
Troy.
From Troy. They I don't think they even put him out there to tackle the entire time.
Right,
I think it was center and both left and right.
That's how they view him. That's how they view him. That's how the NFL views him.
You can't not look at him and think you can't look at him and think he's a tackle. Like he has to play inside. He doesn't have any other choice, in my opinion. He's just gonna have to get stronger. He's gonna have to use his hands. It almost looked like he wasn't ever ready for someone to put hands on him, is what it looked like. I don't know. It was strange, man. It wasn't good. I'm gonna leave it there. Yeah, leave it there.
So Andrew's still a work in progress. Still a work in progress, but definitely a guard. All right, a few more winners here. We have Osiris Torrance of UF, Darnell Wright, Tennessee, Matthew Bergeron. So a trio of offensive linemen there, and actually you finish it with offensive linemen. The last five include John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota, really impressive center, and Steve Avila, guard from TCU. Hadley, your thoughts on these players?
Yeah, I thought this was the most impressive position group in all of the Senior Bowl was the offensive line. I think we got some first-round talent here, some really good day two guys. I thought Osiris Torrance, he did exactly what I saw on tape. Never allowed a sack at the University of Florida or Louisiana before. In his whole collegiate career, he never allowed a sack. And it was status quo for him, man. Is the strength, the anchor. For a big guy, he can move to the second level. So, I love Osiris Torrance's game. I think he's a first-round talent. Might be one of the first interior offensive linemen off the board. Also, John Michael Smith, I think he's moving up boards. I think he could also push for that first interior offensive line off the board. It's just the movement ability, the ability to get to the second level in a zone scheme. I think he's picture perfect for that scheme.
Right.
Also showed some anchor too. That was a question mark for me coming into the Senior Bowl, and I thought he held up well there. Steve Avila, I think he surprised me the most out of this group. Just showing physicality and nastiness, rep after rep. Not much guys got around him or through him. And then we got Bergeron and Darnell Wright. Darnell Wright, the big right tackle. He loves to get hands on opponents. He's physical. He likes to attack. Offensive line, you got a couple of different sets. You got the longer sets where you go all the way back. But I think he's made for that quick set. Get your hands on him. Get physical right away. He doesn't want to get the contact. He wants to give the contact. Darnell Wright is. And then Matthew Bergeron, he's a guy that I had question marks previously coming in, and I think he checked some of those boxes for me going against strength and length all week. So all of these guys, they impressed, man. This was the most impressive group in the whole Senior Bowl.
Drew, John Michael Schmitz a better prospect than Tyler Linderbaum?
Yeah. So I think Linderbaum is a more athletic center, but John Michael Schmitz, man, he different, bro. He's different, bro. He's wider, bigger, stronger. He can move too. He's athletic too. But he's just. I think he's the entire package at center. I know center obviously is usually a smaller player inside, and that's kind of what Linderbaum was or is. And he's actually as far as I know, he's had a fantastic season this past season. But John Michael Schmitz just gives you a little bit more oomph at the position at center.
On mute, talking on mute. Let's jump into the losers from the American team. And it's a relatively short list here. We have Xavier Hutchinson from Iowa State, Byron Young, the edge from Tennessee, Eku Leota from Auburn, Nick Saldivaria from Old Dominion, and Cameron Latu from Alabama. And Drew, among the quote unquote losers, Senior Bowl losers from the American team, according to Headley, who do you think disappointed the most?
Probably it's between Xavier Hutchinson and Byron Young, and I'm going to go with Byron Young. When you watch tape the previous year, and I'm watching him and I'm saying, okay, this is the guy that I'm gonna key on come the season, and I want to watch and see if there is something, if there are things that he's going to improve on. One of the biggest things for me was a secondary pass rush move. Most of the time he could win with. He's very good with playing games up front. He has that timing, that pace, that variation when it comes to that. But and sometimes he can beat you straight with his speed and burst off the edge. But if it don't work, he's dead to rights. And that happened time after time after time after time. Didn't matter if it was team. Didn't matter if it was individual. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. One-on-ones, it didn't matter. He just didn't win because he just didn't have it. And you could tell he was pressing because he was sometimes he come really, really high, get killed. Sometimes he go really low, get put in the ground. He just didn't have it, man. You could tell he was thinking through, as he was attacking the offensive lineman, it just wasn't working out for him, man. So, I think he needs to get with somebody, to teach him some things and just add some tools to his tool shed, man, or to his toolbox, excuse me.
Yeah, no secondary move. To your point, when the initial bull rush or the speed or the inside rip or whatever the case may be didn't work, there was no plan B. There was nothing to chain that initial move with in order to actually finish. So yeah, I was a little disappointed in Byron Young, guy that I really liked on tape at Tennessee. I got to go back to the tape. After seeing the way he performed and see how exactly he won. You know what I mean? To see whether or not we are looking at an issue in terms of, just a sheer lack of secondary and tertiary pass rush moves, or, perhaps he just didn't have a good week. We got to see. We got to revisit the tape to confirm. Headley, walk us through the Senior Bowl losers, guys that really didn't help themselves, may have cost themselves a little money.
Yeah, Cameron Latu, I just thought he didn't hold on to the ball. I know he had some of those same issues at Alabama, but some balls that he should have caught just slipped through his hands. I think he got to get stronger hands. Nick Saldivaria, he just kept on getting beat all week long. He was like, is that the guy from North Carolina or Old Dominion? It was Old Dominion. He was the guy getting beat because they had the light blue helmet out there. And then Drew talked about Young and Xavier Hutchinson. I thought, for me personally, this was the biggest disappointment for me. I don't think he had like a terrible week, but coming into the week, I thought he was one of the better receivers coming into this class. He was a Biletnikoff finalist. He balled at Iowa State, but it's just the separation wasn't there consistently with him. I think he dropped a couple passes also. Maybe it was just a bad week. He's a guy that I could see that, maybe he's better than what the week showed. I think that he could probably potentially be a good fit, in the NFL. But Senior Bowl week, he just didn't have it.
If I remember correctly, he mentioned that he felt like he was knocking off some rust. So that lag between obviously his last game and of course the Senior Bowl, he wasn't as sharp as he'd like to be. And to your point, I thought as the week went on, you could see the confidence growing a little bit more and more incrementally. It wasn't a huge night and day performance, complete 180, but he got a little bit better each day, I thought. So yeah, I think Xavier Hutchinson had some things to prove, even though there's quality film of him, and he didn't necessarily capitalize. So we'll see how he tests. We'll see how the remainder of the pre-draft process fares for him. Let's switch gears and get into Lance Zierlein's his first mock draft of the 2023 cycle. Again, if you're not familiar with Lance writes the lion's share of the scouting reports for NFL.com. So obviously we have our own scouting reports at CouchPotatoGM.com, but we are fans. We are fans of Lance's work and his dogged approach to the NFL draft. When I say tired, I mean dogged. And I think this mock, as Jake puts it, is very interesting. It is very, very interesting.
Really interesting.
Let's get into it. No big surprise here at the top. No trade. So
Chalk.
Yes, absolutely. Chicago goes with the best player in the class. That's Jalen Carter. If you're gonna address your defense, you want to be able to affect the passer. He can do that as well as shore up your run defense. You want to be solid up the middle. I think it's important for any defense to have a firm foundation up the middle. That's interior defensive line. That's your middle linebacker, and that's your safety play. And then of course you can do some things on the perimeter of your defense as well to really enhance it. But if you don't have that middle part, at every level situated, you're going to struggle. So Jalen Carter is the first overall pick, followed by Bryce Young. We would agree, quarterback 1 in the class. So makes perfect sense here for the Houston Texans. With the 3rd overall pick, Will Anderson, again, big need for the Cardinals. Player, board, all of it, team need, all of it comes together here with the 3rd overall pick in Will Anderson. And I think, there's a chance for Will Anderson to even have, bigger numbers at the next level. He was asked to do certain things, take on double teams. Teams typically had a plan for him, so you didn't always get the huge counting numbers, although his counting numbers are very good. But Will Anderson has the opportunity to really demonstrate why he was considered the top prospect going into the 2022 season. So Will Anderson, 3rd overall. 4th overall, C.J. Stroud to the Colts. Again, no big surprise here through the first 4 picks. Colts obviously need to get the quarterback position situated. C.J. Stroud, he has it, man. He has it. I think Bryce Young obviously has proven it over the course of, more contests, his ability to make plays outside of structure and create. But I believe Stroud has that ability. He certainly demonstrated it against the Georgia Bulldogs, and as far as the size and the anticipatory throws and stuff, he absolutely has it. So C.J. Stroud to the Colts. 5th overall, Tyree Wilson. Derek, we got Tyree Wilson. Let us know what you think of the pick. And Headley, you were on Tyree Wilson pretty early in the season. What do you think about him landing in Seattle?
I think it's kind of chalk now. I think a lot of people are projecting Seattle to go with Tyree Wilson, big, physical, could affect the passer, could get in the backfield against the run game. So, I'm not Tyree. I think this is kind of where Tyree's going to trickle in from 5 to 10.
All right. And Jake makes a great point here. Just in terms of the way Will Anderson was aligned, it depressed his counting stats. It really did. It really did. But hopefully the Cardinals unleash him because he's going to be fun to watch. Tyree Wilson, to your point, Headley, he's a lock. He's a lock for the top 10, I think, at this juncture. And obviously it would be no surprise if he goes top 5 with Seattle picking with the 5th overall pick. All right. Derek says Tyree is a freak, but so raw. He says go with the quarterback instead. So you got Geno. We're anticipating Geno. You don't have Geno, but we're anticipating Geno back serving as your bridge potentially. But even with Stroud and Bryce Young off the board, Derek thinks you go quarterback. So the question then becomes, let's explore this a little bit. Do you trade down? Do you go get your guy here, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson? Which direction do you go in here, Drew?
Bro, I'm not drafting a quarterback for them. I'm not doing that, bro.
You're not doing it?
The reason they lost games and all that had nothing to do with the quarterback. Geno Smith was fantastic this season. It's probably his best season ever, and I expect him to keep that up because that's a team he wants to play for. They gave him his shot. He did his thing. I think they need to shore up that run defense, bro, and pass rush. I think that's their biggest problem. Is unfortunately they ran into the 49ers. Nobody wants to play them but the Eagles. But. Yeah, I don't think quarterback's a problem for them. I think Geno could play the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is,
Well, I definitely agree with Derek that quarterback was in the plan. If is it still the plan is the question mark, right? As early as his 5th overall pick. And frankly,
Do it, Derek.
I would be trying to get in front of the Colts if I'm Seattle, right? If I want a quarterback, if I want a shot at Stroud, because that's the guy that I'm looking at if Bryce Young's off the board, right? That's my next quarterback, Stroud. Then we get into the conversation regarding Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. But I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire here, Drew. If the owner comes to you and says, "Look, I traded Russell Wilson. I gave you the green light on that, John Snyder. Mm-hmm. Okay, Drew. You're the GM now. I need a quarterback. I need a face of the franchise. We got Geno. We're gonna re-up on Geno, but it's gonna be a 2-year deal with a team option, something small, right? You want the flexibility of a rookie contract. You understand what I'm saying? So who do you draft at 5 with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud off the board if you have to go quarterback?
Bro, you got to fire me, bro. I'm just kidding.
Here we go. Here we go. You better draft the quarterback.
Well, I'm gonna go get my guy then, Jared Hall. You know what I'm saying?
No,
I'm
no,
just
you're
kidding.
not. No, you're
I'm
not.
not. Definitely fire me then. I'm gonna go ahead and get. I'm gonna go Anthony Richardson. You know how we feel about Will Levis over here at Couch Potato General Manager.
Yeah, I gotta give Will Levis another look. I gotta give him another look. I'm just not seeing it. But fresh eyes, fresh perspective. I'm gonna give it another look and see what we're dealing with. So a lot more conversation around the quarterbacks to come outside of those top two, outside of Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. With the 6th pick, we got Christian Gonzalez going to the Lions. This makes perfect sense. We've seen a lot of different cornerbacks considered. I shouldn't say a lot of different quarterbacks. Typically, it's Spoon. Have we seen anybody else other than Spoon as the
Joey
first
Porter,
corner?
Maybe
Joey Porter.
Yeah.
But we like Christian Gonzalez as cornerback 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I think landing here to the Lions is absolutely perfect. Will Levis
off the rails. Here we go.
Will Levis to the Raiders, Hadley. Is it off the rails? Because I think if you can improve that offensive line, you got some weapons there in Las Vegas. You got some options here. So what do you think? What do you think, Hadley?
I don't think it's off the rails. I think the Raiders, the whole Derek Carr debacle, they definitely looking for a quarterback. They might be a team that wants to trade up in the CJ Stroud sweepstakes. So I get it. Will Levis, quarterback to the Raiders. Probably not what I would do for them. There's a guy that's probably not going to go in round 1, or maybe he goes in round 1, that I have higher than Levis, Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. I know he has that injury, but I like him over Will Levis. Now I might be on an island, with the masses, but I like Hooker over Will Levis.
All right, Drew, you're going Anthony Richardson here, right? That's QB3 for you, as far as we're concerned. Yeah. I think that's a legitimate question there, Jake. I think that's a legitimate question. I think, and I don't know how capable McDaniels is in terms of adjusting based on the talent that he has, but I think McDaniels would have to adjust to his player. You would have to adjust to his quarterback in order, and then you roll out the rest of your offense, right? We want to put Levis in a position to be successful. Again, we have Darren Waller, potentially. We have Devontae Adams, obviously. We have Hunter Renfrow. We have some options here. We have some weapons. We need to protect him. They may re-up Josh Jacobs. If not, this is a great class to get you a back or two, right? In the right situation, Will Levis can be effective. And then who knows? You know what I'm saying? As the confidence grows, as he gets more comfortable, as the game slows down, who knows at that point? Again, I'm not necessarily going in that direction. And again, I agree, Jake. This is a very good question. And I don't think he's there yet, but it's incumbent upon the play caller to put the quarterback in a position to be successful, in my opinion. All right. Okay, let's move on to the Falcons pick, Headley. And
this is off the rails. Now we're off the rails. I love Drew Sanders.
I know you're big on Drew Sanders. Yeah. But you think this is too soon? This is a little too soon.
I think so. I think it's a little bit too soon. In my grades, I do have Trenton Simpson a little higher than Drew Sanders at that off the ball linebacker. I love Drew Sanders. I've been talking him up all year. So I'm a Falcons fan, so it's like, okay, I get the guy I love, but right here, maybe a trade down. I know there's no trades in this in his mock, but maybe a trade down and maybe get Drew Sanders a little bit later.
Okay, Hadley, Drew, what do you think about Drew Sanders being a top 10 pick?
It's about what do you plan on doing with him in terms of deploying him? Is he going to be more of a pass rusher than he's going to be a linebacker? Because if that's what you're saying, then I'm with the pick. But if you're saying he's going to do 50-50 or 60-40 linebacker, then I think you got to do what Headley's talking about, which is trade down, because I think he can play both positions. He's very versatile and he's extremely productive. So I understand it from a production standpoint, but again, it comes back to what do you plan on doing with him most of the time? If he's a pass rusher,
right?
I'm comfortable with him. Pass rusher, Drew. We got BJ Ojulari on the board.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you, but he also gives you the ability to be multiple with your defense, or he could be the moving piece within that defense within the front.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it, but everybody seems to hate on BJ Ojolari, bro, for the most part. So I've accepted that when people write their mocks, bro.
You gotta accept it.
I've accepted it. Can't do nothing about it.
All right, so if you're not thrilled with this particular selection, I'm really interested to hear what you think about Keon Watt to the Carolina Panthers. What do you think about the very, very intriguing prospect, White, that is, landing Carolina with the 9th overall pick?
Yeah, there's always a player or two in every draft where, the people in the know, or the people that, like to write mocks, that's always that one or two player that seems to just be at the top of the board somewhere within the first 15 picks that everybody's keying on, or certain people are keying on. And obviously they have heard some scuttlebutt, and they know people, and this is that guy this year, I guess. And watching the tape, I don't get it. Watching him at the Senior Bowl, I don't get it. I understand he can play inside, outside. I understand he has some size, and some people fall. And again, you have to think about who's doing the mock, and some people like traits, right? And I think he has that in spades. But in terms of production, and in terms of his ability being consistent, I don't see it. But I get it in terms of the traits. I don't like him here at Carolina. No, I'm going elsewhere. They got other concerns that they have to deal with in terms of quarterback and different things. I mean, why wouldn't Anthony Richardson go right here?
I wonder how plausible. I mean, it's certainly within the realm of possibility. But with Frank Wright there being, does he want to go with a young quarterback? Does he want to go with a veteran?
It's true.
You know what I mean? I certainly can understand why Carolina might opt to go in a different direction, particularly if they're not sold on Anthony Richardson, who's the only quarterback we imagine will go in the first round with the 9th overall pick. But I'm with you, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say, Headley. I don't agree with Keon White this early. I get it that there's an immense ceiling, and there's some things about him that you simply cannot teach. He's a remarkable athlete at a size that you're not supposed to move like that. A guy that big shouldn't be able to move like that, right? But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was a transfer. Was it Old Dominion that he transferred from? I think it ultimately was where he transferred from. I just don't see him. He hasn't put it together yet. You know what I mean? This is a kind of a leap of faith to figure out whether or not we can unlock some of this untapped talent that he possesses. What do you think, Headley?
Yeah, he's a traits guy. When watching the tape, he reminds me of another guy in his class. I don't think he was as dominant, but he kind of reminds me of Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech, where these guys are big, physical guys, have the versatility to play inside, outside. But they're just missing that secondary, tertiary move, more pass rushing. He just needs more technique in that. I think teams nowadays, they see the traits, like Tyree Wilson, because I don't even think Tyree Wilson is like a top 5 player, but because of those traits, is going to move the draft board. And I think teams are seeing the same thing with Keon White. We're going to coach him up. We're going to get him better with hand movements, and he's going to get after the quarterback, because somebody big and that fast, that powerful, should be in the top 10. And I think that's how NFL teams are looking at it.
I would argue that Wilson has demonstrated more
production.
Right? Mm-hmm. There's just simply been more production, and I get it. It's not about focusing on collegiate production. It's about what's transferable. What's transferable. But I don't see great technique. I don't see a plan necessarily when rushing. You know what I mean? I see a really good athlete. That's what I see to this point. And I think going in, he was considered one of the most intriguing prospects. And I think he can be very good, assuming he lands in the right spot. He gets the requisite coaching, so on and so forth. So I just don't know that I'm willing to go with a player that I think has a lower floor than some other guys that I would opt for at the edge position at this juncture. Jake made mention. Let's back up to the Falcons pick here. He says he thinks the Falcons need to find a strong side edge sitting type rather than another Arnold Ebiketie or D'Angelo Malone. What do you think, Headley?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like Eddie and Malone, they drafted them last year. Those are smaller, quicker guys, more physical guys. You got like a guy like Miles Murphy out here. I know Lance has him way down on the board, but he can bring some physicality. Even Keon White's a physical player. Might be too early for my liking the 8. Yeah, I like what Jake's saying. I agree.
Okay. All right. And Jake actually believes that, Keon White may end up as a Packer.
Oh, boy.
Right? I don't know how Jake feels about that, but I guess it's within the realm of possibility. He certainly fits some of those archetypes that the Packers are looking for. And then, of course, Derek chimes in. He would take McDonald,
Facts.
Ojulari, Nolan
Facts.
Smith,
Facts.
There
Van
you go.
Ness, and
Facts.
some other guys over here.
There you go.
Facts.
Yeah,
Facts.
Larry knows something, man. Me too, Derek. Van Ness, he was another physical power guy. Nolan Smith's a physical power guy. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of physical guys that can go over Keon White.
Gotcha. All right, let's round out the top 10 here. We have the Philadelphia Eagles making the first of 2 first-round selections, and Lance Zierlein has them selecting Devin Witherspoon. I don't think there's any debate here. Bradbury, I imagine, will be an unrestricted free agent after this season. Enter Devin Witherspoon, and I got nothing else to say about him. You know what I mean? He's plug and play. We were looking forward to seeing him in Mobile. We saw the mock drafts where the national pundits had him, and I think Devin Witherspoon said, you know what, I don't think the Senior Bowl is necessary. So Spoon seems to be almost a lock for the top 10 to 12 picks. I don't think he gets beyond the 12th selection in this draft, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes top 10. With the 11th overall pick, the Tennessee Titans going to the offensive line, trying to rebuild that position group. Peter Skoronski. So our first offensive tackle off the board, and it's Skoronski. What do you think about that one, Drew?
Oh, mute,
Drew, mute.
Gotta stop, bro. I think it's a good pick. I'm not mad at it. It makes sense. The boys need help along the offensive line. This is a guy who, some say play tackle, some say play guard, some say play if you don't work outside, push him inside. So I don't think that's a no-fail plan for me in terms of Skoronski. He's going to figure it out no matter what position he plays, and it's a good fit because the boys, struggled a little bit this year in terms of injuries and different things. So I think he would be a good add. I think, we'll stick it there. I'll leave it there. Mute.
Oh, now you're on mute.
I'm on mute. Here we go.
A mute party right now.
Here we go, man. I got a cough. I'm trying to avoid coughing in people's, ears. You know what I'm saying? Would you go with a different offensive lineman here? Or do you think Skoronski's the right fit here for Tennessee, Headley?
I'm a Paris Johnson guy. But like Drew says, if it was me, it's probably Paris Johnson. But like Drew says, this guy Skoronski is pretty safe. If he doesn't work out outside, he can come inside, help the interior of that offensive line. So, I'm not mad at Tennessee drafting Skoronski either.
And I think that's Jake's sentiment there, is that they need to mitigate risk with the selection and get a guy that they can plug and play and kind of forget about it. So Skoronski to the Titans. Jalen Hyatt. This came as a surprise to me, right? So we talked about a few surprises in the top 10. This is the next big one for me. Jalen Hyatt going as high as he is in this mock draft, 12th overall, first receiver off the board. What do you think about it, Headley?
The speed.
Yo.
It makes sense in terms of every single draft season. We always see the fast guy go a lot earlier than we think. John Ross is an example. Before that, what was the Raiders guy?
Hayward Bay.
Hayward Bay. Oh, that's the Al Davis right there, isn't it?
Ruggs more recently.
Henry Ruggs.
Yeah.
So the fast guy is always going to move up the draft board. So, I get it from that perspective. But there's a lot of receivers I like over Hyatt, more technical route runners. Hyatt was in that system where, it was that switch release. He was open a lot. He wasn't really getting open by himself. It was mostly schemed up, and he was always wide open. So, at the next level, when DB's getting in your face, you're not going to play in that system in Tennessee. What do you do? So I think there's a lot of question marks about him, but I think he's one of those high-risk, high-reward guys. You got Bryce Young over there, so it'll make it easier for him to for everybody else on the football field with a deep Jalen Hyatt. So it could possibly work. So, we'll see if Houston goes that way in the 2023 NFL draft.
So, Drew, I heard you flipping through your notes. What you got for me?
No, I was just looking to see because I couldn't remember. I didn't remember a rep where he was challenged at press. I was even looking like, all right, if I can't find it within the how do you say it? Between the 20s, but inside the 20s, in that red zone goal line, still didn't see it. Like Eddie said, it was schemed up well. I don't know if he can beat press, point blank. Period. He works well in small spaces. I like to say, receivers or players like him have small feet. You know what I'm saying? So they can make a lot of a little bit. And he has that. His speed, like Helly said, there was a lot of busted coverages with that scheme that Tennessee was running. He was just running wide open. So, you know, usually for a guy who, when you talk about guys that are wide open, I forget where I was going for that. I'll come back to it.
I'll say this about your concern regarding his ability to beat the press. We talked a little bit about when we were going over the Senior Bowl winners and losers with Tank Dell, right? When he was pressed, the one occasion he was actually pressed effectively, that's the only rep that I recall him losing, right? And yes, they're going to be a handful of corners that have the ability to mitigate Jalen Hyatt's speed because their press technique, their ability to jam him at the line of scrimmage and disrupt him at the line of scrimmage. But there are far too few corners that are actually either willing to do it or capable of it, right? And this is not me campaigning for Jalen Hyatt, but I'm just talking about that particular concern. And then, of course, scheme, right? We talked about Tennessee's their approach, their scheme offensively, those stack releases, the motions, you know what I'm saying? Think about it from the Chiefs' perspective. And of course, we're talking about a different position, but Travis Kelce, right? People wonder, why is it so difficult? Mind you, I still don't agree with the fact that Kelce can go 10 for 100 and 2 touchdowns. It would never happen. It would never happen if I had an opportunity to coach against that, because somebody else has to beat me, right? And somebody else might go for 200 on me, but not that guy, right? But if you think about what Andy Reid does with him, he does make it difficult. He does make it difficult for you to get your hands on him and disrupt him at the line of scrimmage because of the stack releases, the short motion, so on and so forth. The same thing can be said of Jalen Hyatt. So if you believe in that game-changing speed and the fact that he can truly change the dynamics of your offense, you got some guys underneath that can make plays in the short to intermediate parts of the field. Again, don't necessarily agree with Hyatt this high or being the first receiver off the board, but I'm less concerned about his ability to beat the press, right? I'm more concerned about, being able to separate in the short to intermediate. I know he has a long speed. See that time and again. Can he consistently, run that dig route effectively? You understand what I'm saying? Those are the types of things that I'm looking for. And, is he going to be able to protect himself? He's a little slightly built, you know what I mean? So, I know they've tried to legislate a lot of the physicality out of the game, but there are times where you're going to get lined up for the fade. There can be some medicine balls from time to time. So can he protect himself? That's kind of my concerns with him.
Well, your favorite head coach or former head coach, they're talking about Houston hiring him. Well, he's going in for an interview, man.
Kingsbury?
Your boy Cliff, bro.
Cliff?
Out there
I thought Cliff was on vacation.
I thought he was too, bro. But, Hyatt will only line up on one side of the ball forever. Lock it in. I don't know, be left or right, but, we know how Cliff do it.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good move.
No,
I don't think that's a good move. I think D'Amico should exercise some more options. Personally, give Cliff a little time to reflect, and then see if he can, kind of reinvent his offense a bit, reimagine his offense. Let's move on and let Zierlein's mock draft. We have Brian Branch, 13th overall pick to the New York Jets, followed by Broderick Jones. Really impressive offensive tackle going to the New England Patriots. The Patriots definitely need to improve their offense. They need to improve their offense. This
period
across the board, they need to improve their offense. I certainly could see them going Brian Branch if he were on the board, but the Jets select him. And Drew, what do you think about Branch to the Jets? I don't think there's any issue with the player, but would you go in a different direction with this pick?
Yeah, you could go receiver, you could go offensive line. I know it's going to give them some variety in the secondary. We know that Sauce won the defensive rookie of the year this past year, which I think is well deserved, by the way. But yeah, I think he's going to give you a little bit more to do in the secondary. But I mean, they could go linebacker. I mean, there's just so many different directions that they could go. I think this is a luxury pick for me personally, to be honest.
Gotcha. And Headley, Broderick Jones ahead of Paris Johnson. Your thoughts as far as him landing in New England? Why do you think Lance went with Jones over Johnson?
It's the physicality, the power in this game. The Patriots, they like to run the football. Richardson, Damian Harrison, those guys, and they're strong and physical. And I think Broderick Jones will fit that locker room. He'll fit the style that Belichick and those guys want to play. So that's why I think him over Paris Johnson. But I do want to circle back to Branch because I got to kind of disagree a little bit with my counterpart here because I actually love Brian Branch in New York. I think the Jets have a formidable front four, got some pretty good linebackers, but that cover ability from Brian Branch at the safety position, I think they got Whitehead joining on the roster right now. So I think he makes perfect sense. And I think guys like this, Brian Branch, I think I'm with Lance. I think he goes higher than a lot of things because he could cover and he could tackle. And in the NFL, in this passing league, you got to be able to cover and you got to be able to tackle. So I think it's a perfect pick for the New York Jets.
All right. Here we are, Jake. We got the Packers on the clock, and
I wonder if you like this one.
Lance is going with Luke Musgrave, first tight end off the board. This is the first time I've seen Musgrave in the first round. First time he's been, not only the first time being in the first round, but he's the first tight end off the board. Yeah, I want to give Jake a little time to weigh in on this particular pick. But in the meantime, Drew, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I understand it. In terms of him being tight end one, watching his tape, that dude can move, bro. Brother Silky smooth out there. I know we talk about Dalton Kincaid. Musgrave is a smooth brother out there running around, man, and he can block. I don't need my tight end to be out there doing Darnell Washington things. I just need you to be serviceable in the blocking game, right? The rest of it, if you can catch the football, if you can separate, use your big body frame, post up on folks, and make the catch, which is what he can do. He's coming off of injury, so I think he's taking a hit in terms of, what can he do, right? But
sure.
He's the entire package for me, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of the tight end position, inline or in the slot or what. If you want to get cute, I think where he struggles maybe is when they try to get a little too cute, and don't have him actually up on the line, maybe behind the tackle, just behind the tackle, getting cute, trying to set some stuff up. But if somebody's right over him, I think he'll be fine in terms of getting his hands up, sealing people off. He's not going to put anybody in the rafters or anything like that in terms of power in the run game. But he's serviceable, maybe a little bit more than serviceable in terms of his blocking, and I think he's exceptional in the pass game.
Haley, I want to get your opinion on it as well.
I'm not
you feeling it? Yeah,
I'm not rolling,
bro.
I'm not rolling, bro.
Jake said he's cool with it, though. It seems like Jake is cool.
Thank you, Jake. Appreciate you.
I guess. I'm not. If I want a guy that can catch, I'm probably gonna get a wide receiver. I know the Packers don't predominantly draft wide receivers, but if they're gonna go with a tight end, there's three guys in this draft class that I think is better than Luke Musgrave. You said he's like a Dalton Kincaid. He's like a Dalton Kincaid, but he's not Dalton Kincaid. I think Dalton Kincaid is superior to him. I think Darnell Washington, his ability, his ceiling as a blocker, that sixth offensive line, and has ability in the passing game. And Michael Mayer, I think people are just having Michael Mayer fatigue. Like, it's like they're bringing him down the board. Every mock draft, I just see him go further down. It's not sexy, but he's the most consistent guy for me. And those three guys, I can't, man. I think this might be one of the worst picks in his mock right here for me.
Wow. Ooh. All right, so we got a little
I don't like
there. We got a little dissension there in terms of the Luke Musgrave pick to the Green Bay Packers. Haley doesn't like it. Our resident Green Bay fan, Jake, says he's okay with it, and Drew certainly understands it. So some varying opinions there on Luke Musgrave. Good prospect, but maybe not necessarily where Headley would select him. I tend to lean and favor your thought process there, Headley, as far as Green Bay is concerned. I like the depth and a lot of the prospects at the tight end position. I'm not sure I would go with Musgrave here with 15th overall pick. I don't think I would hesitate, in the second round, but right here for me, I don't know that that's the player that I want to go with for Green Bay in particular. All right. About halfway through here, we got Osiris Torrance, Drew, big offensive guard, another Senior Bowl participant, i.e. Luke Musgrave, landing with the Commanders. And I think this is an area of this football team. We've penciled in cornerbacks a lot here for the Commanders. It's been cornerback just on a pretty consistent basis. The other position, right, that I think, or rather position group that I believe needs to be addressed is the offensive line. And he does it with, Lance does it with Osiris Torrance here. What do you think about that, Drew?
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. Listen, whoever's taking Osiris Torrance is a need, obviously, at the guard position. And it's fine. I mean, I'm going corner because I think the corner is a bigger concern for them. But excuse me, I'm not mad at the Osiris Torrance pick. I did see some stuff on Twitter where people are saying that Torrance takes a lot of body shots and he absorbs them. I don't know how that works out in terms of playing in the league against grown men. And I've seen it a couple times, but I think he's fine. I think he's strong enough to take it on, but some stuff he may have to clean up. But I ain't mad at the pick, bro. That's let's go, man. Can you ever be mad at going in the trenches?
Nah, you can't be. I don't think you can be mad at Osiris Torrance. Any team drafting Osiris Torrance.
Right.
I agree
Plug
with
and
that.
play. Let's go.
Yeah, another position group I think Washington, should think about is defensive line. They talking about Chase Young might not, fifth option might not get picked up.
I believe it did though. Did it not?
It did. I heard they were talking about that.
Maybe I read that wrong. I'm not
maybe
sure.
You're right.
But I think they're gonna address that. I can't imagine
the defensive line.
Yeah, I can't imagine a Rivera coach team is gonna
just let beast
both
walk
Payne
out the door.
and Young. Yeah, no, I don't see it. I don't see it.
Sense.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right. 17th overall pick, Joey Porter. So we talked about cornerback potentially with the 16th overall pick. Joey Porter Jr., son of Joey Porter Sr., lands with the Steelers. Of course, his dad played for the Steelers. That works very well here. Not a whole lot to discuss as far as the fit per se, but I want to talk a little bit more about the player. Hadley, what do you think about Porter, and how high of a ceiling do you think? Do you think he could be the best corner in this class?
Yeah, I think he does. I think he has the right mentality because at the cornerback position on that island, I think mentality is a big thing. You want to strike fear in the opponent. That's had that mindset where if I do get beat, you're not beating me again. So he's long, he's physical. What I like about him the most is his closing ability, man. Because you might think you have him, but he just comes to the football quickly. He got those long arms, deflect passes. So yeah, I think he does have a ceiling to be maybe the top corner in this class.
I think that last point you make is what I like most about Porter as well, is the fact that everything is contested. There's very rarely a gimme when you're targeting Joey Porter. You know what I mean? He's not going to make every play, obviously. The other guys get paid too, or will be getting paid as he enters the NFL. But the fact that he is a very competitive corner, and for every rep, every snap, like I said, every target that comes his way, he seemingly is trying to make a play on the ball, trying to disrupt, break up that play. I think that bodes well. You know what I mean? Those corners that will routinely give up 8-9 yards because they're not willing to challenge the receiver, I can't stand it. You know what I mean? So really like Porter landing there to Pittsburgh, assuming they don't go offensive line. Michael Mayer, Headley, right? He's the second tight end off the board. So, I think Zierlein clearly has an appreciation for Mayer. He just seems to love Luke Musgrave. What do you think about Mayer landing in Detroit?
Yeah, I think plug and play. Another guy, T.J. Hawkinson, you trade him inside the division to Minnesota. So, yeah, you get a guy that can help Jared Goff in that offense. I think Jameson Williams, he's a guy to watch this year. A healthy Jameson Williams with a St. Brown and a Michael Mayer. Yeah, I really like that pick for the Lions right there.
Okay, so obviously they went Christian Gonzalez with the first selection. I don't hate the Mayer selection because of the trade of Hawkinson. I would be hard-pressed not to double down on the defense, particularly with guys like B.J. Ojulari available. I know they like James Houston, don't get me wrong, and of course Aiden Hutchinson. You got Trent Simpson out there. There's some impact defensive players that I might go with prior to Mayer, but I'm not mad at this pick at all. 19th pick, Drew. I saved it for you.
Appreciate you.
Saved it for you, Drew.
Looking out for
our resident Bucks fan, our resident Gator fan. It all came together. Like the A team, love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, bro. So this is a dream. This is not reality. I don't expect this to be a thing. I think if they get him, they're gonna have to trade up to get him.
Sure.
But I know that Jason Light doesn't want to do that. Doesn't like to trade up. If he does, it's probably one or two spots. Not.
He's trading up. He traded up for a kicker that one time.
Come on, bro.
Roberto.
He was trying some stuff.
Oh, Dalvin. That's
where was he from? Where was he from?
Go ahead, Ellie.
You
don't want to say
no. I got to answer, Juice. Don't worry. He's from the same school that the guy you should have picked, Dalvin Cook, in that draft, he's from that same school.
So he's the same school we picked our last score 2 quarterbacks ago. What was his name?
Oh yeah.
Crab legs.
And hold on. The same school that you got some Hall of Famers in Derrick Brooks also. Ward Dunn, another beast right there. That's the same school also. I'm gonna throw that out there. We could keep doing same school.
I don't want to talk about it no more. But yeah, this would be fantastic. I know the Bucs are looking to see trying to get a new offensive coordinator in there. Thank God they've got rid of Byron Leftwich. Brady is out. Need a new quarterback there. Don't know if it'll be Trask, but in this scenario, it's Anthony Richardson. I've said it before and I say it again. I'm gonna keep saying it. He's just got to play more football. I mean, I guess if he's going 19 here, he's gonna be the starter from day one. Just be interested to see who the offensive coordinator will be to get him right, because he was on his way up with Florida. Wish he would have stayed another year, but it is what it is.
Yeah, the talent, the natural talent is is off the charts. It is absolutely off the charts. But there's polishing that's necessary, and more polishing than you typically would expect in the first round. But of course, the way the NFL is going, it is focused on traits, and he's not missing those at all. And I do think he's, if not further along, as far along as Will Levis. I don't think there's a huge disparity as far as their processing. In fact, Richardson probably is a better processor than Will Levis. So, absolutely. If the Bucs select him, considering the fact that you don't really have a veteran, a true veteran with playing experience already on the roster, I imagine he would be the week one starter. Of course, this takes you potentially, in all likelihood, absolutely it does, because obviously you have your rookie quarterback out of the Caleb Williams sweepstakes next year. So I think you're okay with it if it's Anthony Richardson, though, Drew.
Yeah.
I think you're okay with that. All right. Let's get into a few comments here. We got Jake saying,
Facts.
So what Drew is saying, Super Bowl in 2 years with Richardson. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Facts.
I don't know about that. Not the way that defense is playing. I don't know about that. But I mean, it could be optimistic. Nothing wrong with that. And then I agree with you here, Jay. Detroit is very much in Atlanta's boat. A Miles Murphy type would suit them at defensive end. I think, Headley, you'd be okay with Miles Murphy at 8 if they were to go in that direction. Maybe not with B.J. Ojulari on the board, but certainly you'd be more comfortable with that compared to Drew Sanders. So I understand that. Yeah. All right. Got the 20th and 21st picks here. John Michael Schmitz. We talked about him at length during our Senior Bowl discussion. He's a Senior Bowl winner.
Finally.
He absolutely belongs. Going to Seattle here, Derek. What do you think about that? And then Paris Johnson. Now, if the Chargers the Chargers can go in a couple different directions. I'm not mad at them addressing the offensive line. I'm a big proponent of making the offensive line a position group of strength. You get Rashawn Slater back, who's legit. My guy Jamari Sawyer really acquitted himself well at tackle, but I think I love him at guard, paired up with Zion Johnson. And then you add Paris Johnson to the mix. Now, when you talk about position group of strength, that is a very, very impressive young offensive line. Not unlike what we kind of get from the Detroit Lions, and that could be scary. So Drew, give me your thoughts on these two selections.
Well, first of all, thank you, Lance. You've done the right thing. I can't believe I'm seeing this man in the first round. JMS. Finally. Get that man some respect. Finally, bro. And I love the fit. It's perfect. We need to open up them holes for, what's the running back for Seattle? I forget his name, man.
Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker. Whew! Can you imagine what that looks like for the Seattle Seahawks, boy?
Yeah. Gino might not have to do that much. Maybe he's gonna hand the ball off with that offensive line,
bruh. And then that way you don't got to get you a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Don't know if we go Tyree up there with the the 5th, 6th pick, whatever it was, but yeah. And then in terms of the Chargers, Paris Johnson, you said it, Juice. I mean, you solidify that offensive line. I know Paris got some things to work on in terms of his strength and in terms of being a little bit more of a bully, but he's athletic. Got some technique things to work on, but I think he is our OT1, and he's our OT1 for a reason. So I set it and forget it, bro.
Yeah. All right, my only question is who's playing left tackle? Is it Paris Johnson or Rashawn Slater?
We'll figure it out, bro.
Probably Slater.
Probably
I'll
leave
probably
Slater
keep
there.
Slater at left
I'd probably
tackle.
leave Slater there. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I that would be impressive. I really like the fit. I really like the fit of Paris Johnson landing in Los Angeles. Los Angeles, they have their concerns. They have a tendency to fall apart. Of course, they struggle with injuries, so on and so forth. But I think continuing to improve that offensive line, adding some weapons offensively, is something that they need to prioritize. Of course, they've struggled to stop the run on a consistent basis. That's been an ongoing issue. So obviously, there's work to do on both sides of the ball. But I think in terms of maximizing Justin Herbert, you need to make sure that you have the requisite weapons and you keep him upright. Absolutely, the busted rib had an issue that plagued him throughout the season. You can't have that. Cannot have that. Helly, your thoughts? I want you to weigh in on these two picks as well.
Yeah, I love Michael Schmidt, JMS. I love Paris Johnson. I'll focus in on Paris Johnson Jr. because the Chargers, that offensive line, like you said, it's going to be bestial. But my concern with the Chargers right now, I'm looking at it, and Keenan Allen's getting a little older. I think you mentioned it before, Juice getting a tight end or something. Was it tight end? Or no, you said another receiver. Receiver, I think. And I see it now with Keenan Allen getting hurt. Mike Williams always hurt. Josh Palmer is out there, but he's like a 2 or 3. So a wide receiver for the Chargers would be very intriguing for me also.
So I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. I want to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. So Jake indicated that there are a lot of tackles in LA with that pick at 21. If I'm LA, give me Bijan Robinson.
Ain't that what
somebody
Bucky
that
did?
Nah,
Bucky.
it was Bucky or Jeremiah. One of them.
One of them. I think it was Bucky.
Bucky. It was Bucky. Yeah.
Can't do it.
Bijan. Nah.
Bijan special though, but you can have Bijan on the field and Austin Eckler.
Yeah, it's too much other areas of concern for the Chargers to that luxury pick with Bijan.
Yeah, they don't have the luxury of selecting Bijan. I agree with you, Headley, and I'm going to disagree with Jake here. They don't have the luxury to select Bijan. They have other areas that they need to address. And if you're desperate to find somebody to pair with Austin Eckler, this is a great draft. This is a great free agent class in order to do so.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like I said, Sawyer obviously can play tackle if you want to leave him there and want to go in a different direction, because there are other aspects of this team that need to improve. They need to get their pass rush right. You know what I'm saying? My guy, his name is escaping me. He kind of fell off. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Bosa was hurt, but I'm just forgetting his name. Whatever.
Who? Khalil Mack.
Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack fell off towards the end of the season.
Forgot his name.
It was a disappearing act.
Yo,
excuse me. It was a disappearing act. But obviously, being able to affect the passer, you can never have enough pass rushers, right? You know, there's concerns in terms of the second level of their defense. Kenneth Murray got a lot of run last year, but I don't know if he's the guy. He doesn't appear to be the guy to me. You know what I mean? Like we talked about the receiver position. There are a lot of things that this team needs to do in order to get themselves to the point where the off-season champs, the paper champ kind of moniker that they have, changing that to legitimate threats in the AFC. And again, Bijan is special, no question about it. But if I can line up Slater, Zion Johnson, whoever at center, Sawyer, and Paris Johnson, man, just imagine what Eckler and one of these backs that you can get in day 3 in this very, very deep class, probably the best running back class since 2017, not 2016. That's the direction that I would go in. Right, if I could get a Paris Johnson, me personally. Now, once Paris Johnson's off the board, if he's already off the board, okay, we can go in a little bit of a different direction. But running back wouldn't be the direction I'd go in here with the Chargers. All right. Jake does acknowledge that edge is definitely in play. Absolutely. And Derek said a lot of great edge players on the board. So, yes, pass rush is paramount, particularly when you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. You know what I mean? You're going to have to affect the passer. Now we got Sean Payton. He might be able to revitalize Russell Wilson. You know what I mean? Hopefully the sake of the Broncos. So, yeah, you have to be able to affect the passer. There are a lot of good quarterbacks in the AFC regardless, right? Regardless of whether we're talking in division or not. That conference is full of young quarterbacks. So you got to be able to get them off their spot. All right, we're moving right along. Next few selections. The Baltimore Ravens going with Quentin Johnston. The Vikings follow that up with Keely Ringo. And then Lance has the Jacksonville Jaguars going with Dalton Kincaid. So a third tight end here in the first 24 picks. Hadley, what do you think about these three selections?
Quentin Johnston makes sense for the Ravens. They've been drafting, those smaller receivers. Let's get a big guy on the outside, could track the football really well. So, I understand that pick. Keely Ringo, Vikings do the corner, but he wouldn't be the corner that I would go with here. I think there's a lot of better corners than Ringo, and that's someone that loved Ringo coming into the season. And then Dalton Kincaid. Yeah, Jacksonville getting a tight end. It looks like more and more that's what's going to happen. They might not bring back Evan Ingram as a free agent. So, yeah, let's get another tight end. And I would love Kincaid in that offense, man, because that's an offense that I'm really falling in love with Etienne, the running back, Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, and Kincaid with Trevor Lawrence. I think that's a young up-and-coming team the NFL needs to watch.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Kincaid. Kincaid is probably my favorite tight end in the class. The movement ability is uncanny. It reminds me of that guy, 87 in Kansas City, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be opposed to going offensive line here in Jacksonville either. You know what I mean? I think they have some room to shore up some things there. Maybe not necessarily in the interior, but on the edges. It just kind of depends on who's available to you. Darnell Wright obviously is in play here, I would imagine. Anton Harrison as well. So I'd be hard pressed to give Zierlein Lance a hard time regarding Dalton Kincaid, but just kind of thinking in terms of my philosophy of playing inside out, I probably would go offensive line here, but certainly not mad at the Kincaid selection. Drew, what about you? What do you think about these three picks? And I want to get your thoughts specifically on Keely Ringo here to the Vikings.
Yeah, I was going to go right there, but real quick, let me touch on the Ray. I don't like Quentin Johnston to the Ravens here because he'd be disappearing. I'm always there's two teams that I want a sure thing at receiver. One is New England, and the other is the Ravens. I need a sure thing. And I don't know that he's a sure thing. I think he's a big play threat. I think he's a playmaker, but he's not always there, right? I need a sure thing there. So I think that one was a miss. I'd probably go Jordan Addison. You got a Cedric Tillman. You got a Rashee Rice. I think that's kind of where I go. And then in terms of Keely Ringo, I think when you talk about because it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, I was trying to because I saw it on Twitter earlier, or it was yesterday or today, that Brian Flores is the DC. So we know what that defense is going to look like. Man coverage, physical corners. You're by yourself on an island.
It's going to be zero. There's going to be a lot of zero. Yeah.
Yes. And if that's the case, I'm not mad at the pick. Keely Ringo falling down our boards in terms of the corners, right? Just because dude ain't trying to tackle. Don't know if that's a business decision or if that's just him. Right.
Yeah, if you're playing man, you better tackle.
Right. So, but I like it from the perspective of him playing man in terms of coverage.
Sure.
But I just don't like it from a perspective of you got to tackle, bro.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Going a different direction is for me personally.
Jake kind of shares your sentiment there. Maybe not necessarily the player, but
I don't mind JSN either. I don't mind JSN.
You don't like JSN either. Okay.
No. I don't mind him. I don't mind.
Oh, you don't mind. You don't mind.
I don't mind him there either.
Consistency.
Sure thing, man. Yeah, that's what I need.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah. To your point, Quentin Johnston, there was a slow start to the season, very slow start to the season, and too many peaks and valleys. Right. Really, really intriguing prospect, size speed combination, and I think in the right circumstance, he can be a true difference maker. But I think as far as Baltimore is concerned, you want to mitigate risk at the receiver position. So certainly understand your line of thinking there. Jake also indicated Addison would be good to go there. Agree with Drew. So yeah, different receiver certainly, but not necessarily Quentin Johnston, as Lance ultimately decided on going with here. Let's move on. We have the next three selections are Trenton Simpson to the New York Giants. That makes perfect sense to me. Yeah. They certainly need to improve the second level of their defense with Blake Martinez, I believe, retiring. You got Jalen Smith, number 54, running around out there, not knowing what to do. Don't understand. I just don't understand. I really don't understand how he still had a job. But anyway, Deontay Banks to the Dallas Cowboys. I think Banks to we were talking about it offline. Banks runs well at the combine. He's a lock, first round lock.
Yeah.
First round lock, right? That those ball skills, that size, you might be looking at another Trayvon Diggs, right? As far as his ability to play in different types of schemes, zone, man, and of course, affect the passer and by turning the football over. And then Bijan Robinson doesn't get past the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have been trying to figure out the running back position. The
It's a lot,
age,
bro.
the era of Motor Singletary comes to an end.
It's a lot, bro.
I'm not as big a fan as James Cook as I think a lot of people are. He's a nice kind of change of pace guy, but I don't believe he is a guy that you want necessarily to have to give 10, 12, 15 carries to. I think 6 to 8 touches for James Cook is plenty. Bijan Robinson changes the outlook of that offense. I think the Bills certainly can stand to improve their offensive line. They need to get better opposite Stephon Diggs. That's just on the offensive side of the ball. They have a number of question marks on the defensive side of the ball as well. But I think when you talk about value, talk about the team and what the quarterback can do is demonstrated what he can do outside of the supporting cast. Bijan Robinson here, I can stomach it. So what do you think about Bijan Robinson landing here in Buffalo, Drew? And then Headley, I want to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, man, it's a lot, bro. There's every year there's a team or two, a player that's a match to that team. It's a perfect fit every time. They end up drafting that player, anyways, unless somebody jumps up. I think one year it was Bateman to the Ravens. To me, this is a lot, bro. I understand all the other concerns you're talking about, right? I get it. But this is a team I think can win despite the defense. Now they're gonna have to protect
Josh Allen.
I almost said Josh Freeman, bro. Josh Allen, damn. My bad, bro. My bad. That was terrible. Oh, man. Yeah, you got to protect Josh Allen, but I think they can do that in the upcoming rounds with their second and third picks. I think the offensive line is a fairly deep class. Go ahead.
The Senior Bowl, I think, uncovered some gems.
Yeah.
I think, Steve Avila, McClendon Curtis. I think there's some guys there that, to your point, that can kind of come in and help right away that may not necessarily be garnering a lot of attention. So certainly understand that, but I think Buffalo needs to address it early. I think they need to address their offensive line early, whether it be free agency, the draft, the combination thereof. They need to get better up front. They need to be better up front. They need to be able to run the football, and Robinson, is certainly going to go a long way to help that. So. He's what they've been looking for. He's what they've been looking for. They made a play for Christian McCaffrey. They were clearly wanted to improve, become more dynamic, both as ball carrier and out of the backfield as a receiver. And Robinson fits the bill like a T. We're talking about one of the best prospects since that very, very, very impressive 2017 class. So certainly makes a lot of sense. Go ahead, Drew. I know you want to get back in there.
Yeah, real quick, in terms of Deontay Banks, I was looking at my notes. I was like, man, I can't find my notes. I know I got him in there. But just looking at the notes, he's very, and I don't want to say this intelligently, but a lot of players don't do this. They don't use the sideline. Like, it's just wild to me. It's crazy to me. These corners don't use. They almost act
like extra defender.
It's crazy.
Extra defender.
Nah, Banks. Nah, I'm gonna ride you right out of bounds with his no space left. He knows where his help's
pin you to the sideline.
Yes. Yeah. And I said in my notes, I think Headley may ask, I think it was Banks was asked about, does he got that long speed? But I put in that boy fast. So, unless he fooled me during the combine, we'll see. But he may be a corner that flies up the draft boards come combine if he performs.
Yeah, I agree with Banks, man. That's the last box I want to check with Deontay Banks is that long speed, because for a guy that's 6'2", he gets that quiet, patient feed at the line. He moves really well. You're not going to really get him out those Nathaniel Bells or those guys that has quick feet. I think Deontay Banks could guard that. Long speed. That's the only thing that I question. That's my last box. We're probably going to see that at the combine. Trenton Simpson to the Giants. I think that's perfect right there. I think the Giants need a guy like that at the second level. Sideline to sideline, my linebacker one, and Bijan. This is the pick, man. This is the pick that's been, everyone has had him going to Buffalo. I think maybe the Bills will run the ball more, because that's something that they need to do, especially playoff time, December, January. Let's run the football, and maybe they just don't have the confidence in a Motor Singletary and a James Cook. So getting Bijan Robinson can make them a more complete team, more balanced team.
Yeah, I think that's what you're looking for from Buffalo on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with Derek or Jake as far as I agree with them as far as they have to address the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, offensive line and defensive line. They have to improve in those areas. When Von Miller went down, they simply weren't the same defense. During that playoff game against Cincinnati, Cincinnati was getting off the ball, and I know there was snow out there, but Buffalo, this is a home game, man. They just look sluggish. Yeah. They looked like they couldn't get out of first gear when they were rushing the passer. Joe Burrow was completely unfazed throughout the entirety of that game. It's one of those situations where you got to be able to affect the passer, right? You got to be able to protect your passer, and you got to be able to win in different ways. It turned into Josh Allen saved me entirely too much. And I think a big part of Buffalo's struggles and the fact how their defense, or rather their offense, would just go quiet for an entire half is because they all they had was the fastball. All they had was the four-seamer from Josh Allen. In the red zone, they struggled. They really struggled. And I think that's where Bijan Robinson can make a difference. You understand what I'm saying? I agree. If you want to prioritize the line of scrimmage, I'm not going to bat an eyelash at that. I'm always for that. But if under the circumstances, would I potentially, opt for a running back in one of these rare instances towards the end of the bottom of the first? I would be open to it with Buffalo. So interesting stuff there. Interesting
BJ
stuff there.
here, bro. Go BJ Ojolari though. You know what I'm saying?
I ain't mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. All right, let's get to a few comments here. We got Derek, guys falling in love with this range. Jordan Addison, Brazil, Kalijah Cansey, Josh Downs. Absolutely.
Mad at it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. That's a really good crop there.
Those are all my guys, man.
Yeah.
Yo.
I like all those guys.
One above all, Witherspoon or Gonzalez. Eagles really need corners. So in this mock, Lance did get you a corner with the 10th overall pick, and that would be Devon Witherspoon. So certainly got your corner there. All right. And let's go to our last few picks. We have Cincinnati going with Kalijah Cansey, another team that I think needs to address their offensive line. Kalijah Cansey is a very, very unique three technique. I love the player, but Lance even goes as far as say he's not an every down guy here. So I'm interested to get your thoughts in terms of, do you think it's a little too early for Cansey? Miles Murphy going a lot later than I anticipated, but I think it's a great landing spot in New Orleans. Kansas City going with Derek Hall, a guy who was, okay during the Senior Bowl, but the tape doesn't lie. And then, of course, Philadelphia, the rich get richer. Jordan Addison added to that mix on the offensive side of the ball. So they get Witherspoon with the 10th overall pick, and then Jordan Addison, with the 31st overall pick. We'll start with you, Headley. Your thoughts on Cansey and the remainder selections here?
Oh, yeah, I love Cansey. Yeah, he does have a little issue with power. He could probably get pushed back in the run game, but you want him as that three tech, penetrating guy. I think he's tough on the inside. While he's not the biggest, he's like a bowling ball. He kind of bounces off of guys, kind of finds his way into the backfield against the run. So, I like him, man. If he goes in the first round, I'm not mad at it at all. I think he has first-round capabilities. Miles Murphy seems like he fell a little bit, so I think the Saints get a steal here. Physical guy on the edge, could help with the run and the pass game. Derek Hall to the Chiefs. I'm a little I'm not sure about that.
You're on your Karlaftis. You're on your Karlaftis with this one.
Yeah, BJ Ojolari still on the board.
Yeah,
I can't pass.
The hate is real, bro. The hate is real for him, bro.
I can't pass him up there. And then you got Jordan Addison to the Eagles. I think you mentioned this also, Juice. Another receiver in Philadelphia to go with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. So that would be richer. Yeah, the rich is getting richer. I think both Eagles pick in this draft. The rich is definitely getting richer.
Yeah, for me, Kalijah Cansey, I think Headley said it all in terms of what he is as a player. And then you talk about the rotation that they have over there for the Bengals in terms of that D-line. I think it's a really, really good mix. And I think you're going to get the most out of him. He's not a guy that you can go out there and run 60 plays with, right? He's a guy you're going to be able to put in a rotation, and he's going to play like a first-round talent because he's not going to play 60 plays a game, right? He's going to be at his maximum every time he get out there. So I think that's a perfect fit there. Miles Murphy, like Headley said, going to the Saints, they got a lot of concerns. I guess you go Miles Murphy here. I mean, maybe they could have gone receiver. Is Michael Thomas going to play next year? Is Derek Carr over there, right? That's what's happening. That's what it is.
That's what it's saying.
Seems that way.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good luck, Saints. And then Derek Hall. Yeah, I think I'm going BJ Ojulari. Derek Hall. He didn't bust a grape at the Senior Bowl. I'll put it that way. And when I'm going and I'm watching the tape, I kind of
Wouldn't.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, Colby.
Listen,
Colby.
That he was he was the best defensive player for Auburn. Period. Yeah. That dude different, bro. He's different. And I think at a certain point he may be getting first round love. I'm just gonna put it out there. And then Jordan Addison. Yeah, just wait for it. Wait for it. Okay. Yeah, just wait for it. Just wait. Just like I tell you about JMS. Same thing will win. That's all I'm saying. And then Jordan Addison, I mean, Rich got richer, bro. We know what he is. That's ridiculous. Please don't let it happen. But it's probably going to. Who knows?
Jake says, as a league, we must prevent Brown, Smith, Addison trio.
Bro, can't have it, bro.
You can't have it. That's too much.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's too much to defend.
And Eagles want to run it down your throat also.
Exactly. They still boast one of the best offensive line, if not the best offensive line in the league. And they're physical up front. So yeah. Yeah, that might be a bit too much for the opposition to deal with. And I think Jake also makes a good point here with Miles Murphy landing in New Orleans. Of course, Davenport, I think we had high hopes for. He was a Senior Bowl alum. Struggled with injury, didn't necessarily put it all together. Had some flashes, but too many valleys in his play. So he is an upgrade. Absolutely fills a position of need and is an upgrade. So that's going to do it. That's going to do it for our Lance Zierlein's. I believe this is his 1.0. This first 2023 NFL mock draft. Very interesting mock draft. Some things that we liked, some things we loved, and some things, scratch our head a little bit. So really intriguing stuff from Lance. Again, if you're not familiar with his work, he writes almost all of the scouting reports on NFL.com. His mock drafts are going to be there throughout the process. He's a good follow on Twitter. I found out he's a big Houston Rockets fan. I don't know what the Rockets doing out there.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah. They just traded back for John Wall. They traded John Wall, traded back for him. They got some young guys out there, but nah, it ain't been the same since Harden left.
Yeah, I think so. Jake asked a question here, and I love it. I love it, but I don't think it's responsible.
Yeah, because the thing about Philly is they're going to have a lot of concerns in terms of bringing people back. I know they push money forward in terms of
void years and stuff.
In the contracts. Getting cute with the money. So I think and Roseman's Howie Roseman's doing a really good job. So I think they're going to have to kind of reload that defense, add a couple pieces. They make all defense with the first couple of picks to fix what's not going to be there. So I think
it's a matter of addressing their depth. You know what I mean? They go out and they get Sue and another D tackle. His name is escaping me. A couple of veterans because they were struggling at the point of attack on the run game. They bring in Bradbury. They trade for our guy Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I mean, like you said, there's some decisions that have to be made. We're not expecting Brandon Graham back. Fletcher Cox shouldn't be back. This team's going to look a little different, and I think it's the depth that's really going to be challenged, right? That's what's really going to be challenged. You got to think about a Hurts extension here. Like there's a lot of moving parts. So, like I said, I think Bijan would be phenomenal, but I don't think it's necessarily all that responsible to go with the running back here, 10th overall. He certainly is talented enough for the selection, but I think for Philadelphia, I don't know that that's a particularly responsible selection.
Yeah, I'm with Drew there. I think Philadelphia might go 2 defensive players before they go Bijan and Addison. I think reloading that defense should be a top priority for the Eagles.
So let's think about it real quick. I do want to get this comment here from Jake. Ojulari has the pass rush toolbox diversity that David Ojabo from Michigan last year had last cycle. And there's no buzz. Ojabo is a better athlete, but still, I don't know why the NFL seems to be down on BJ Ojulari. I'm not sure why. I'd like to get more insight.
They might know something.
Why? Perhaps. But it seems like the NFL, like those national pundits,
Nothing.
Everybody that
Quiet.
works for NFL Network, they seem to be, there seems to be some cold water on Ojulari for some reason, and I'm not sure exactly why. So, yeah, it'll be interesting
We're
to
gonna
see.
find out.
We will. I wanna tackle this last pick with Philadelphia before we close it out. You mentioned, both of you mentioned that Philadelphia may go, use those first 2 picks on the defensive side of the ball. Who would you go with here at 31 then? If you have Witherspoon in tow, who do you got at 31?
I got a guy, Nolan
BJ
Smith.
Oh
yeah. He
Nolan
shouldn't
Smith.
get out of the first round. He shouldn't get out of the first round.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Nolan Smith.
Damn.
Hassan Reddick.
Damn. That's
Josh
gold.
Oof.
We got a question for Drew.
No, that's a no, bro. That question is no. Absolutely not.
You're not trading in a bidder?
No. For what? Nah.
I like Brizzy as well.
Brizzy
as well.
That's another one.
That's a good one.
That's another one.
Yep. That might be the better pick based on the configuration of their roster.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, I like Nolan Smith. I like the idea of Nolan Smith more, but Brizzy probably is more responsible. Yeah. I like it.
What, Derek? What is second rounder?
You want a second rounder for Vita?
No.
Derek, you know what, man? Vita Vea didn't look all that good this year. I got to be honest with you.
I think it was hurt, bro. I think it was hurt.
I gotta be
he does get hurt a lot, though. So
those run fits, and it's a collective effort, obviously. But Vita Vea was getting washed out, and I never expected that from him. But we'll see. We'll see how he bounces back. But Drew's not trading him though, Derek. No. So you're gonna have to figure it out.
Only way we trade him is a first round pick, but y'all ain't doing that. Ain't nobody doing that. Let me just say that.
We're not doing that.
You got injury history too lengthy. So
all right, gents, good show. Guys, check us out on the website, couchpotatogm.com, the YouTube channel, Couch Potato General Manager. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We will see you same time next week. That's every Friday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Looking forward to it next week. For Headley, Drew, this is Juice. See you next week.